From athletes to authors, innovators to icons, we connect with those who help shape the South's culture, revealing the stories of their lives, their journeys, their triumphs and tragedies, what molded them into who they are today. Broadcasting across the Southeast, telling the South stories. This is where their stories live. Authentically off-script and personally illuminating. This is Audibles with Jason Scarborough. This week on Audibles, we bring you an Audibles Encore. This week, Wyatt Waters, Part 1.
So let's go back to where it all started for you. 1955, born in Brookhaven, correct?
Yes, born in Brookhaven because really my father was a coach at Weston at Colin.
Okay.
And my mother was a Colette and he was a coach. I'm the middle child and my older brother's a couple of years older. And we were living in the athletic dorm, but as chaperones, my dad coaching. And my mother was from Brookhaven, so I was born at King's Daughters, the old King's Daughters, not the new one. And then we moved to Amory, and where Dad was coaching. Coaching is a lot like preaching, you know. It's you have the Lord calls you in one field, and you have a bad season in the other, but the effect is the same. You move, and there's a lot of attention on coaching that doesn't go with English all the time. So we moved finally to Florence, and I remember moving. I was 2.5, and they also gave us a house to live in as a sweetener to the deal to get the coach there. They don't do that with English teachers either, I imagine. But the house wasn't that great. It was it's not even there anymore. I was there last week. There were holes in the kitchen floor. And I remember there was a bare water heater in the corner with cobwebs and stuff. And my mother was just crying because it was not really what she thought, the house should be. But she grabbed me and my brother, and we walked to the Western Auto. And at Courtney's Western Auto in Florence, Mississippi. And we bought some paint. She bought some paint. And came back and she got some orange juice cans, which were metal at the time. She flattened them, tacked them to the floor to cover the holes, and then painted the floor, but you could still see where it had been patched. So to disguise that, she had us spatter paint the floor to make it look like linoleum, because it was very popular at the time. So my older brother and I were, we were doing like that, spattering paint on the floor. I was 2.5 years old, and now that's how Jackson Pollock painted. He put his paintings on the floor and more or less dripped, and that's the way he applied paint. But I remember thinking, okay, I do this, and that happens, and that makes me feel a certain way. And it's still a big motivator in painting, because paint, it's about the way you feel. Anyway, time passes, my brother goes to school. He's a couple years older, and I'm at home with my mom. Now my mom is pregnant with my little brother Joel at the time. And she let this out of the bag a little while ago. She said, "Oh, you were just a handful. And I just got Miss Rose to teach you." Miss Rose Taylor taught me to read at the telephone building in Florence, because they gave the community a room. It was just full of books, and little kids, kindergarten age, would go there, and she would read the stories, and then she would have us paint the stories. So I was a handful. My older brother was in school. She was pregnant with my little brother, and she drags me over to Miss Rose's on a misty day. And I remember the crunch of the new gravel in the driveway, and her green and off green Bel Air. And she didn't let us in. She let us under her stoop though. And my mom's tried to talk her into teaching me art. And she said, "Oh, I can't do that. I just can't do that. I'm sorry, I can't do it." And then we get back home, and she says, she calls and she says, "Well, I'll try to teach him, but I only know the basics, so I'm just going to teach him the basics." And so she started teaching me before I was in school. And she taught me till we moved here to Clinton when I was 15. And Miss Rose would tell me, you're going to paint, you're going to have a gallery. I love you, I'm praying for you. Sounds like the help, I know. But this is the way it was. And it was pretty idyllic. It started a little thing in Florence where she began teaching other people. And, but it's like, somebody who really liked piano and everybody else was made to take it. And they didn't really want to do it maybe as much. So I was really kind of known as the guy who started these art lessons, Miss Rose. And that's how I started painting. I mean, those are the early things that motivated me. And, okay, my little brother was burned really bad, and I was second grade age, and we had to, my mom had to take care of him in the hospital. So it was a gasoline explosion, and we had to go live with my grandmother in a girls' dorm at Southern, Bolton Hall. And a great deal of my second grade, I didn't go to school. And a great deal of my brother's fourth grade, Jim, he didn't go to school because Joel was in the hospital and had to be taken care of. And a few years ago, my mom said, we're eating and we're all there. And she said, yeah, and y'all went to school in Hattiesburg. And Jim and I looked at each other and said, we didn't go to school. He said, no, y'all went to school. Apparently, my mom didn't know that we didn't go to school. And it is a miracle it didn't turn out to be a criminal. I mean, we were just running around town, and but I was painting and drawing. And that was my, today it would be considered art therapy. But really, I was just doing that to deal with things, to pass the time. And those are two big events early in my life that kind of molded me. Looking back, of course, at the time, I was just having a good time running around town. California sandwich shop, Kemper Park with the alligators, all that stuff.
Do you feel like, hearing you talk about spattering that paint, is that where you kind of look back now, reflective, and say, all right, that's where the light bulb went off, or did it really go off in Miss Rose's classes?
Both of those.
Both of those?
Both of those.
Okay.
I mean, I certainly still feel something just for the application of paint, just for the process of putting paint on paper. But really, Miss Rose was very important to me in a more personal way. When you're little, you figure like family and family friends, they're supposed to like you. And here suddenly there was this person who didn't have to like me. And she really cared for me. And that, you first, a lot of times you first learn to care for yourself because somebody else is caring for you. And that was the kind of person she was. She lived to be 103, and she was sharp, really sharp.
She told you that you were going to be an artist, if I remember reading that right. So to have someone believe in you that much, first of all, that young, I mean, what did that do for your confidence going forward?
It really helped because not everybody feels that way.
That's right.
People will tell you a lot of things. You don't know what to believe, but your sniffer, your intuition, the way it feels, you say, oh, I guess that sounds right. That feels right. Your conscience or your whatever it is, but that she was that kind of influence on me. She didn't have to do that. In fact, she wasn't going to do it. And then she reevaluated and said, okay, I'll try. And that started something for her. I didn't know this at the time, but she had lost a husband prior to her teaching those kindergarten classes. And that was, her trying to figure her life out after losing a husband. And I think it gave her something that connected her with the world, She was a great person too, because, you have people in your life and they're pretty good in one way, but then they're, kind of not so great in another way. But there are very few people you can nail down and say, that was good. There's just no apologies there. Just a great person.
She was solid all the way around.
Yeah, and I knew her pretty well. You know, so, but not everybody. I think I may have been known as kind of a weird kid. You know, it's a small town, and I was the guy who painted and also played music. And you know, I remember a friend and I had a little band, and we were big fans of the Beatles. And so, in an effort to copy the Beatles, we wrote our own stuff. That was our idea of copying the Beatles. They wrote their own stuff, you know. And here we were, and I'm sure they were expecting, you know, Hank Williams or something. And then we were getting up there and playing these songs at rodeos and stuff. I saw somebody the other day who was talking about that, and it didn't occur to me that that was unusual. But it was, and you know, that was the kind of person I was growing up. You know.
Doesn't sound unusual to me. Sounds like you were trying to find your path there. I mean, writing your own stuff, playing your own stuff.
I remember I wrote a song about a girl, and I knew honesty was supposed to be very important in making art. And it was, I guess I must have been in the 7th grade, and we were the class play. Remember class plays, perhaps?
Oh, yeah.
We were the intermission, and I wrote this song about this girl, and I used her name, and somebody should have stopped me, but you know, it kind of branded me, you know. There's a price for honesty. It is. I mean, you know, and you have to be prepared to pay that. And it's like that for painting. You have to. I mean, it's a little easier to get away with things in painting because you don't put them into words. You put them into colors and shapes, and it's on paper. And there's a wider range of interpretation. But it's the same thing. You put yourself out there, and you have to either have the naivete or the confidence. I think the naivete came first, and the confidence came much, much later. But they're both important qualities if you're going to do something in the expressive arts.
Today's conversation is brought to you in part by Farm Families of Mississippi, reminding us that every meal starts on a farm.
Mississippi farmers raise over 800,000 head of cattle each year. We take care of our livestock so you get what's good for your family on your table. We are only one of thousands, but we are united as one to grow the food, fiber, and shelter you need every day. Mississippi needs farmers. The Farm Families of Mississippi.
Hey, it's me, Gus the Gopher for Atmos Energy. I dig all around the yard. Occasionally, I bump into a utility line and get a headache. But if you hit one with your shovel, backhoe, or ditch digger, you could cause a gas leak, disrupt service, or worse. So call 811 at least 3 business days before you or someone else digs in your yard to have those underground utility-owned lines marked. It's free and it's the law. You dig what I'm saying? For more on safe digging, visit atmosenergy.com/811.
Family owned and operated since 1986, Lakeside Molding has become the trusted source of architectural products throughout the South. They offer fine interior architectural moldings, custom millwork, and cabinet doors designed and handcrafted in Flowwood. Their showroom on Lakeland Drive is stocked with today's most sought-after interior details, including corbels, post, fireplace mantles, bath vanities, mirrors, and much more. Tim Shoemaker and his staff work closely to meet client needs for new construction, restoration, and remodeling projects. Lakeside Molding, where details make the difference.
Is cooking your passion? Do you love to bake? Do you want to be a chef? You need to check out Culinary Arts at Holmes CC. When the affordable tuition you need meets the technical skills you want, that's when you know you're a Bulldog. A Holmes Community College Bulldog. Enroll today at holmescc.edu.
Audibles continues with support from Farm Families of Mississippi, where agriculture meets everyday life.
Do you remember your first painting, your first solo flight? What was that?
The first thing I did was in Miss Rose's class. It was a watercolor of one of those aluminum cups that was blue, and and there was a reflection of a lemon in there because it was part of the still life. But I remember being fascinated that it reflected the objects that were in the still life in the, and it was a watercolor, and it was done on manila paper. And that's the first significant painting I remember. Before that, it was crayons, and crayons of, we didn't get the 64 color set with the, the sharpener in the corner. I got the 8 color set, and to make the colors you wanted to, you had to overlay colors. Mm-hmm. So it was really a great thing, and they were the blunt, big ones, not the little bitty pointy ones. So I learned to overlay colors pretty early because of that. If I'd had the full range of color, it wouldn't have benefited me any, Crayons, Crayola, Blue Horse, all that.
You talked about, I remember you saying before, you moving to Clinton in the 10th grade, that was a big shift. So you've lived in Brookhaven, Florence, mm-hmm. and now, of course, made your home here in Clinton. How much do you feel like living in all these different places, not just in the South, but here in Mississippi, how do you see that influence your artwork?
Well, it does. I mean, it's easier to say in retrospect, It's kind of like Pee Wee Herman, when he falls on his bike. I meant to do that. You can find the purpose and the reason of these things much later. In Florence, what I really got out of that is everybody knew everybody, and that mm-hmm. gave you a connection to things. Everybody, if you wanted a party, you had to have everybody because there weren't enough people if you didn't invite everybody. I moved to Clinton, and those were my roots and my beginnings, and they'll always be my roots and beginnings. Then we moved to Clinton, and I was 15, and I didn't really want anybody to know I painted, so I kind of kept it low. There were no art classes in Florence, and then suddenly I moved to a place here, and I remember starting school here thinking, oh, these teachers are rich because look at those cards, and it didn't occur to me that those were the students' cards. One of the first things I said was, well, where do they tie the horses up at the end of the year for their report cards? Because that's what they did in Florence. They tied them down by the band hall, and you rode your horse, your Shetland pony, or mule. I think somebody rode a cow one year.
No, they didn't.
At the last day of school, yeah. but that was kind of something good about that, and to pick their report cards up. And so I moved here, and it was a lot more affluent, and and my brothers are very big athletes, and they're great guys, but I didn't play sports. Mm-hmm. I was in the 5th grade in Florence before I realized you didn't have to play. I thought they let school out so you could play baseball because everybody did. But anyway, it was a lot different environment, and I had a lot of good friends, but I did not take any art in high school here. And I remember somebody wrote something on Facebook, and I didn't know what to say about that. They said that I was in Mrs. Allen's class. She was the art teacher, a great lady, friends with the family and all that, but I didn't take any art. But they, will every once in a while tell me a story about me being in an art class. And this one person on Facebook really went into it and how I had helped them with some technical thing, and I just didn't have the heart to tell him I was never in her class, and I couldn't have helped you because you didn't know I did this. But so I was kind of shocked. I got the citizenship award. That's kind of like the Kiss of Death award. You get that when you really don't do anything, but you don't get in trouble. That's the Citizenship Award. I shared it with Dale McPhail. And anyway, I didn't do a lot. And then, but after that, I still painted. I just did it more privately. And then college came around. And I went to Mississippi College pretty much out of default, because it's here in Clinton. Mm-hmm. And there's a great tradition in my family to go to Southern, which, you know, is a great thing. My dad went there on an athletic scholarship. Both my brothers went there. But there also was a lot of pressure to kind of, you know, be that. And the good thing about college for me was that you can reinvent yourself. Whatever you were, nobody knows. And so I went to Mississippi College out of default, and I majored in art. And at the end of the semester, your faculty advisor is supposed to talk to you about how you're doing and offer some suggestions about directions and things. And my faculty advisor was Ron Alexander, who's being very, very honest, and he did a very difficult thing that was really, really important. Sometimes the most important news is not the easiest news. And he told me at the end of my freshman year, you need to figure out what you're going to do with your life, because you're just not doing what you need to be doing to be an artist. And it was, I mean, I've thanked him for that. And because he did it not to run me down, but to help me to make a commitment to have more passion about what I was doing. And anyway, it really scared me. And so I resolved to work really hard because of that. And I wasn't doing it to show him. Somebody said, oh, you were showing him, weren't you? He did a very difficult and generous thing. You don't want to tell people that, but you have to be honest as well. So you're just stuck. You have to tell the truth. And the next year, I took a watercolor class with Dr. Gore, Sam Gore. And so between the very critical evaluation of how badly I was performing as a freshman, and having Dr. Gore the next year, who was just, I mean, he really cared. And he gave me a work study, and I thought that was, you know what work study is? Mm-hmm. They give you minimum wage for, you know, changing light bulbs and stuff. And
physical labor.
Yeah, but I hung out with Dr. Gore, and that was the good part of that. And I was not a shiny penny, you know. Dr. Gore made me understand working. He told me the things that I'd already heard, but he was somebody else, and he was a guy I respected, and I knew he cared about me. And he gave me a very classical education in drawing and color. And I didn't have my prerequisites my sophomore year for watercolor. And I don't know if he looked the other way, or if there were chads on the computer card that fell through or something. I got in there, and I took watercolor, and he said, you don't really do much, you know, in watercolor until you've done 100 watercolors. So I put 1 on the back, 2, and I did 100 watercolors my first semester, and they were pretty bad. But you got to get the bad out of you to get to the good, you know, and keep going. And that's when I fell in love with watercolor, and it's been the direction that I've been working in, you know, since then.
Looking back at that conversation with Mr. Alexander, and then subsequently you and Dr. Gore working together, how many times do you just take a moment? We're sitting here in this beautiful gallery, by the way. How many times throughout the day or week do you reflect on that moment and just reflect on how pivotal a moment that was? Do you reflect on it often?
More after the fact.
Yeah.
In the middle, it just kind of breaks your heart. But then you have to just look inside yourself and say, okay, I'm not performing like I need to do. Yeah. And you have to, you know, be hard enough on yourself to recognize it and love yourself enough to keep going too, to do better. You got to have both of those things. And they were both done with love and caring and a genuine interest in my development. I remember Ron Alexander came here, and he had heard that story about that, and someone had gotten the wrong message. I have to really repeat that, because it was not an "I'll show you" moment, and he was not trying to run me down. He was trying to help me.
He lit a fuse.
Yeah. And I had that, and then the next year I had Dr. Gore. Both of those things are important.
Mm-hmm.
You have to look at yourself honestly, but you have to have people to encourage you as well. So it's too much encouragement without, critique is just, or too much critique without encouragement doesn't help either. You have to have that balance of things if you're genuinely going to grow.
Support for Audibles comes from Atmos Energy, helping to fuel homes across the South with safe, reliable, natural gas. We'll be right back.
When it comes to choosing energy for your family and your home, make the smart choice with natural gas from Atmos Energy. It's efficient and reliable energy that's essential for today and generations to come. You can count on affordable natural gas to help you save money and keep you comfortable while fueling your dream home. So make the smart choice and talk to a builder today about including natural gas. Together, we're fueling our energy future. Atmos Energy, your natural gas company.
From our view on this farm, food security is national security. Our nation must have a sustainable food source. Keeping the supply chain moving and food on our grocery store shelves by growing the cleanest food in the world.
We're only one of thousands, but we are united as one to grow the food, fiber, and shelter you need every day, because Mississippi needs us. Mississippi needs farmers, the farm families of Mississippi.
When it comes to concrete work in central Mississippi, trust a name built on generations of craftsmanship. Nico Concrete Contractor. Nico is a third-generation concrete professional with over 30 years of hands-on experience and more than 20 years in business right here in Brandon. From residential driveways and patios to commercial parking lots, metal building foundations and retaining walls. If you want it done right the first time, call Nico Concrete Contractor. Built on experience, built to last. Welcome back to Audibles, presented in part by Atmos Energy, natural gas, the smart energy choice for your home.
It's so interesting hearing you talk about this, because I hear the sincerity in your voice about Miss Rose, and then we fast forward to Dr. Alexander and then Dr. Gore, and sandwiched in between Miss Rose and Dr. Gore is Dr. Alexander, who loved you enough, believed in you enough to say, hey, you got to change direction here if you're ever going to fulfill, your God-given gifts. It's very interesting the different colors and hues of encouragement that came from all three of those people that pretty much kind of helped put you on the right path. Do you ever view it that way?
Definitely. You can't just tell people what they want to hear.
It's true.
Not and be honest at the same time. And nowadays, I'm teaching a lot more. I taught a lot more back when I didn't know anywhere near as much. So this is kind of penance. I had done some really horrible teaching, but I was just trying to make a living. I had to make a living, and I was already making a pittance of a living, working at a gallery in Jackson, and anyway, I went through a big style change because things just came together, and so it's not a choice you make, it's just like the result of things coming together in your life, influences. And so I changed the way I was painting, and people stayed away in droves. It was horrible. And I didn't sell anything for 6 months, and and that was how I was living at the time. So I had to go to work for the Arts Commission as an artist in school, in the artist in school programs. And I would drive down to Port Gibson or do little workshops through them in different places around the state, and did one here in Clinton, in fact. But that got me past the, that part of my life where no one bought anything. I had a show at the Deposit Guarantee Plaza, and this is after I'd really had some of these revelations and these breakthroughs and just these moments of change. And I just thought everybody was going to be so excited, because I thought, wow, I'm growing and I'm changing, and people are going to, this is great. And nobody bought anything. And it was just so educational to figure out that just because you get it doesn't mean everybody else gets it. And there's a little bit of a delay factor. People sometimes, support you because what somebody else is doing. They don't really get it. And so, but that was a good thing really for me. And I worked with the artists in school programs for a while, and eventually people started to come back, and I started down the road to becoming more of who I am right now. And in fact, some people will come into the gallery and they'll say, oh, I like what you did a few years ago, more colorful piece, and you're going to lose people. You have to risk it, though. You have to risk it. You can't do what's safe. And that was a hard time. I just bought a house. I remember people saying, well, you just have to go back to that way of painting. And I said, I can't do that. I mean, it's not even a choice. It's just what you do. I guess I could have done it, but it wouldn't have been right. I heard the unforgivable sin is not the terrible thing that you did. You have to have 2 semesters of Bible at MC. I had Dr. McCarty, and he's the one who introduced this idea to me. That it was not the bad thing that you did, but the good that you refused to do. The thing that you knew you should do that you did not do.
I like that.
Because God is in the business of forgiving. But, we don't forgive ourselves as easy. And so you carry that around. So you have to do those things. You have to acknowledge the change of a better direction of what you're doing. And sometimes people get it, sometimes people don't. And you have to be honest enough to not care. That's one of the biggest things in making a living. I have to paint like I don't have to do this for a living, because I have to throw that to the wind a little bit. Otherwise you pander quite a bit, and you don't really grow. And I'm interested in growing. At 70 years old, I'm interested in growing. That's how I want to do this.
They say we never stop learning. So that sounds like what you're saying. Never stop learning, never stop growing.
Yeah, you got to be a shark. You got to keep moving forward and all that.
I do want you to tell the story about the Deposit Guarantee Plaza. I love the story. You were outside painting, and you'd been out there for a while. It was hot, one of the hottest summers. I think.
Yeah, it was terrible.
It was awful. I mean, Mississippi heat's terrible as it is, but we do have unseasonably warm summers every now and then. And this
Stick a little pavement in there with buildings around you, and then crank it up a little bit more.
And this story would, if I remember right, it was kind of like your break, the break that you were looking for. The lady that worked in the bank happened, I think, to know your father, know someone, and she came up to you and said, "Hey, I got to put together a show. You want to help put together a show?" Do I have the story somewhat correct?
Well, what happened was I'd had an artist in school program in Meridian that I was working on. And I'd saved up enough money. Because the way it works is, there is no job that you look for. I thought naively that I would get out of school and I would look in the want ads, wanted watercolor artist, bring portfolio, that kind of thing. And I was surprised to find out that's not how it went. I went to school for 4 years, then I got out and got my master's. And then I wrote a thesis that really put things together for me. This is all happening at the same time. And I was putting it off. It was 6 hours, putting it off to the very end, and something unexpected happened. That's what really brought about this catalyst for changing for me, writing that thesis. And but I'd moved back from Meridian, save some money, because I would get a job, save money, quit paint, get a job, save money, quit paint, do that 3 or 4 times, you know. And I'd saved up enough money this time to paint for about 6 months, I figured. And it was very hot. And the galleries, I went to the galleries at the time and they said, it's the same story, you know. You don't have any experience. How are you going to get experience if no one gives you a job? So they said, nobody knows you. So I started painting at the corner of Lamar and Capitol Street, which was the financial center of the state at that time, with deposit guarantee. And nobody was buying anything because, in fact, somebody came back and I'd sold a little art box one time at a garage sale and needed some money. And it had Wyatt Waters, 924-6302, artist. And that was, you know, that was my advertisement. And anyway, I got it back, and nobody was buying anything because it turns out the people you met probably thought you were homeless. People would drop quarters in my box, and that just seemed, you know, wasn't going anywhere. But I kept on going. I kept doing it. And near the end of all this stuff, with people not buying at all much, and there were, you know, $50, $40 a piece, things like that. Anyway, this lady who had been one of the people who'd stop and say hi. Some people say hi, but most people just walk on by and they don't really look at you. And she said, hey, my job is to put together shows at the plaza. And if you can give me a show in 2 weeks, I can give you a show because somebody backed out. And I had all these paintings I couldn't sell. Now, if I'd sold those paintings, I wouldn't have been able to have the show, or if I had quit, I wouldn't have met her. And that's how I got a show there. And then suddenly I was able to sell things for $100, $120 that were previously $40 and $50. That's how I got some attention. And at that time, just coincidentally, providentially, or whatever you want to call it, people were redoing the downtown area. The Lamar Theater, Herman's Jewelers, the Parisian Hat Shop, McCrory's. Those were all stores in that area that were being torn down. And I was painting them. So there was a lot of attention on that, and that helped. And it was an incredibly hot summer, and I met a lot of people from the newspaper, which is around the corner. And there was not a whole lot of stuff going on because it was so hot. And so I met Brian Broom, a photographer, and Sherry Lucas, a writer for the paper, and a lot of other folks in the paper. And suddenly I was in the paper and had some exposure. I also learned to talk to people. A lot of them considered you homeless because they were letting a lot of people out of institutions at the time, and they were losing their medication cards, and you know, it really was a humbling thing because substance abuse, alcoholism, just mental illness, and these were my people, you know, and they would start talking to you about their lives because they figured you were in the same boat. Just recently, past 3 years or so, 4 years maybe, there was this guy. I was going to a drugstore on State Street somewhere, and this guy says, hey, how you doing? I said, I'm pretty good. He said, you don't remember me, do you? And I said, no, I don't remember you. I'm sorry. He said, oh man, I was all messed up. you were that guy who was painting downtown. I says, I was all messed up. He says, I got me a job now. Life's good. Anyway, there are those good stories, but there were some tough stories. So, it was great to be able to make a living doing it, even a meager living doing it.
From the seed, and the soil grows row after row. We take care of this land, using just the right amount of our natural resources and never more than we need.
We are only one of thousands, but we are united as one to grow the food, fiber, and shelter you need every day. Because Mississippi needs us. Mississippi needs farmers, the farm families of Mississippi.
Hey, it's me, Gus the Gopher for Atmos Energy. I dig all around the yard. Occasionally, I bump into a utility line and get a headache. But if you hit one with your shovel, backhoe, or ditch digger, you could cause a gas leak, disrupt service, or worse. So call 811 at least 3 business days before you or someone else digs in your yard to have those underground utility-owned lines marked. It's free and it's the law. You dig what I'm saying? For more on safe digging, visit atmosenergy.com/811.
Is cooking your passion? Do you love to bake? Do you want to be a chef? You need to check out Culinary Arts at Holmes CC. When the affordable tuition you need meets the technical skills you want, that's when you know you're a bulldog. A Holmes Community College bulldog. Enroll today at holmescc.edu.
Family owned and operated since 1986, Lakeside Molding has become the trusted source of architectural products throughout the South. They offer fine interior architectural moldings, custom millwork, and cabinet doors designed and handcrafted in Flowwood. Their showroom on Lakeland Drive is stocked with today's most sought-after interior details, including corbels, post, fireplace mantles, bath vanities, mirrors, and much more. Tim Shoemaker and his staff work closely to meet client needs for new construction, restoration, and remodeling projects. Lakeside Molding, where details make the difference.
I've always wanted to ask you this question. When I made a list of people I wanted to interview on the show years ago, I'm always interested what your creative process is. Like, what are the steps you take when you're getting ready? Like, you know what you want to paint. You've seen something that's inspired you or captivated you. But what is your process and preparation like when you're getting ready to paint?
Well, I paint on location. I grew up, and it was called working from life, and I still prefer that. But of course, everything sounds better in French, so it's plein air, which just means in the open air. And that's gotten very popular in the past 10 years. So, but I was always doing that. So what I do, I've developed, I built several easels. This last easel I had someone make for me, and Amos McCormick, and it's the simplest easel, and it's light, so it makes it easier. It makes the process easier for me. But when I get outside, what I do is I drive around. This is how it usually works. I'll drive around and find something that hits me, and then I'll get out and I'll walk it. And it always looks different when you're walking around. I like to say everything looks better on a quarter of a tank, when you know you're driving around. I think I could just drive forever and feel pretty good about just the looking. Growing up in Florence, we would, on Sunday afternoons after church and after the pot roast and after watching Johnny Weissmuller, who is the real Tarzan, on TV, we would drive around and see who had a calf and whose barn had burned, or somebody making an addition to their house, or a car crash that had been pulled to the service station, and it was always like, my mother would say, it's a miracle they survived. Anyway, we would drive around and look at stuff. We would just look at stuff. And that's still the impetus for me, is I like looking at things. I like driving around and just looking at things. Sometimes it's stuff I've seen a million times, but I'm a different person that day. And so it seems more interesting on that certain day. And I don't know what causes that. What really intrigues me is the mystery of it all. I am terrified to paint. I really am. But I'm more terrified to not paint. You got your two choices. You got your terror of doing and your terror of not doing. And I always try to land on to do something.
Why terrified?
It's just, you don't know how it's going to go. And you might have an idea in your head, but I've done it enough to where I know that it's not going to ever be that. Somewhere in the middle of the painting, that's my favorite part, because in the middle, it can go this way or that way. I'm not really controlling it. It's like riding a horse. You get on the horse, and the horse knows the pasture, knows where the rabbit holes are, knows where the barbed wire fences are, and so, the horse, you don't really drive it, you ride it, and the horse participates in this. As the painting develops, the painting has a direction it wants to go, and I try to be sensitive to that and allow it to happen. Like my parents. My dad was a coach and really supportive of what I did. Not so much the art part, but whatever it is I wanted to do. That I was just encouraged to do it well and to not quit, things like that. But, I might have started out like, he thought, well, we'll try him in baseball. And, but then something happens and I start going this other direction. And if you love your kid, if you love your art, you have to support where it goes. It naturally goes the way it goes. You might start off one way, but you have to be generous to let it be what it's going to be. And I did have that in my life. Maybe not everybody in the community got me. Maybe some people thought something was strange about you. Somebody came in here one time, and I would walk at night. I would go out walking. I just like walking at night. And she was a couple of years younger than me, more than that. Anyway, she came and said, yeah, I remember you from high school. You were weird. Well, she was just saying what everybody thought, or a lot of people thought, I guess. Not everybody's bold enough to tell you, but she did. And I thought, well, I was different about that. But I did have the important people believe in me. Not everybody's going to get you. You got to get you, and then you got to be appreciative of those people who get you and encourage you. And they're not always going to be everybody, I never thought I'd get enough people to like me to make a living, a good living, So I've been pretty lucky. But I've had the Miss Roses, the Dr. Gores, Mr. A's, my dad, my mom, people like that. And now my wife. She's...
Miss Christie's a rock star.
Oh, yes. Christy, it's both of our second marriages. And it's a little different when you get married at this age, I remember thinking, well, I just won't get married. I'll just kind of date around a little bit, It's easier to do. But then I met her at St. Patty's Day. We just celebrated our 10th anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
Yeah, I'm really happy about it. 6 years of marriage, 10 years of being together. And we met at Table 1 in Hal and Mal's, Malcolm's place there. And that's our our reunion right there. And anyway, I didn't think I would do this again. And I met her, and we just liked hanging around each other. But that's not really... She gets me, and not only is okay with me being me, but likes me being me. There are people who tolerate you, and there are people who get you, and you want to be with that person that gets you, for lack of another thing. Well, I love her, so that's the way it works.
You ready for us? That was a great first episode, yeah. And usually what he does is, like, we'll come into this one the same way. Usually what they'll do at post is, because there's little gaps in there where we were adjusting, he'll find the spot to stop. And
Real stories, real legends. The South's own storytelling show. Join us next week for another episode of Audibles with Jason Scarborough.